ESG is now a really big thing in the investment world. Every asset manager worth its salt is spending millions to persuade us that they are doing the right thing by the people and the planet. All of which is great, but what can ordinary people like us do to influence what companies do? So to find out what impact ordinary investors can have in the world, I took a trip around London in my greener than green Tesla. The good news is that things are changing as shareholders big and small are finding effective ways of persuading giant corporations to do the right thing. I cruised up with Elliot the cameraman to my neighbourhood in northwest London to see some of the companies whose behaviour has been changed. Silent and emission-free, our Tesla glided up the polluted Edgware Road, passing dozens of gas guzzlers on the way. Smug? Moi? OK, heads up, it's not our Tesla. We rented it for the day. Our first stop was a giant Tesco superstore near Brent Cross. Supermarkets get a bad rap for selling junk food, but look at this, rows and rows of vegetarian and vegan food. Something must be happening. Supermarkets guard their shelf space jealously. If it doesn't sell, it doesn't get on. But there's a bit more to the story than that. There's a good reason why you're finding more healthy and plant-based food in your local Tesco. A few months ago, the pressure group ShareAction got together with investors to challenge Tesco to put more of this stuff on their shelves. Tesco agreed, and now they're working with ShareAction to make sure this happens over the next 2 years.
Our campaign success at Tesco, which has led to them committing to having healthier food, was a shareholder resolution that we filed. It didn't actually get to the AGM because Tesco, through dialogue with us, came to kind of come to terms and accept what we were asking of them. So we reached a compromise, which led to them making some great commitments around healthy food.
That wasn't the only success that ShareAction has had this year. To find out more, it was back in the Tesla, and we purred gently down to a local bank branch. That's right, banks, blamed for everything from the global financial crisis to destroying the earth. Banks around the world are feeling the burn from investors who want to stop them financing activities that heat up the planet. ShareAction and a group of investors got together and told HSBC they needed to do more to cut pollution. HSBC agreed and now says it will stop all financing for the coal industry anywhere in the world by 2040. And its worries about climate change that are really the biggest driving force behind shareholder concern these days. And you can't talk about climate change without mentioning the oil companies. If we want a net zero energy future, we need a net zero transport system. And that means a big shift to electric cars. Did I mention we were driving a Tesla, by the way? Well, we could have recharged it at this petrol station. Petrol Group Shell is on a journey to get greener, and they're responding to pressure from activist investors such as the Church of England, and Pressure Group follow this. They've been tabling motions to get Shell to set tougher emissions reductions targets. 2 years ago, the motion got 14% support. This year, that more than doubled to 30%. It looks like the heat is on for Shell and other oil companies to clean up their act. So what's driving all of this? For the biggest investors, it's about trying to avoid their investments going up in smoke, sometimes literally. For the rest of us, it's the graphic videos of climate change we see every day that makes us want to do something.
I think the climate crisis is the thing that makes people aware of the link between capital and global problems in quite an urgent way. So I think that's when people understand the climate emergency and climate change, and then understand the role that capital plays in that, I think that's what embeds the notion of capital and problems.
Broderick, an asset management industry veteran, is a board member of the Impact Investing Institute. Set up in 2020, the Institute wants to see more money going into impact investments, and it wants shareholders, however small, to speak out.
When people tell me, well, I just own a little bit, I'm just a small shareholder, I can't have any influence. You have a responsibility to vote because it's a responsibility of citizenship. I think you also have a responsibility to vote your shares because it's a responsibility of stewardship.
So that's a huge contrast to the very visible divestment lobby, which wants shareholders, especially big pension funds, to just dump their investments in what they see as toxic companies. Broderick thinks there's a better way.
Just as in the political process, just as with political parties, you can align yourself with like-minded people through the asset managers and the mutual funds and the pensions that you are investing with. And that's really the way you can amplify your voice as a small shareholder. You can still go and glue yourself to the door handle of a bank if you want, but I think the more conventional way is to vote the shares that you own and work with asset managers who really reflect your values.
So how do you make your voice heard as a shareholder? In theory, it should be easy to vote. In reality, it's not that straightforward. One person trying to put that right is Georgia Stewart, CEO of Tumelo, a startup which provides a digital age platform for investors to get their voices heard.
We help pension members and retail investors to see what companies they are invested in, what companies are inside funds that they have, and to also to have a voice on shareholder resolutions that are occurring at any of those companies. We take your opinion and we feed it back to the fund manager that's voting at that company's shareholder resolution, so that they can take your opinion into account as the ultimate owner of that capital, and so that you can see how they actually voted on your behalf.
Like Jamie Broderick, Georgia Stewart is not in favour of people battering down the doors of companies that are failing on human rights and climate change. Instead, she wants to see more people persuading them to do the right thing. And so far, it's going well.
We have had really great take-up from pension platforms. So we work with Legal & General, for example, and Aviva Investors, and other large pension providers, as well as some small fintech platforms like robo-advisor type offerings.
And sure, there are accusations that this is all for show, greenwashing being the term people use, and that fund managers and big investors want to be seen to be doing the right thing, but only as long as it doesn't hurt their search for the best returns.
I think there's probably quite a lot of greenwashing. It's very trendy. It's definitely a marketing gain to say that you have an ESG fund. I guess where we're coming from, we really believe that stewardship is super powerful.
As is often the case, things tend to be bigger and move faster in the US. And that's where we've seen the biggest impact this year, with a small investment fund called Engine Number One getting 2 board seats at the $240 billion oil giant Exxon.
I think what happened at Exxon is really inspiring, seeing Engine Number One, a hedge fund running a campaign to get directors on the board who are far more kind of experienced and able to lead a company through the transition they need to make. It's really inspiring to us, and we'd love to see more of that happening in the future.
From HSBC to Tesco and from Shell to Exxon, things are changing quickly, and it's likely to get even faster, with petrol in short supply and COP26 just around the corner. Awareness of the climate emergency is growing rapidly, and people can now see how their actions can lead to real change. And trust me, I'll be right behind them, just as soon as I can get this Tesla filled up.